What's up, everyone, and welcome to another episode of Cheeseheadz Weekly. It is episode 90, and we got a fun one here today. We have Brian from Cheezetalk Podcast joining us on the show today. Good to have you here. How was your Sunday?
It could have been better, but it's just a game.
Yep, for sure. Yeah, I'd probably have to say the same thing myself as far as it being better. Packers did have a rough game against the Detroit Lions. Hosted the Lions at home. Bad weather game. Lots of rain. Pretty much nonstop, and some high winds thrown in there as well. The Lions come away with a 24-14 victory. Packers looked very out of rhythm and, really did not look very good at all. Moved the football, very inefficient. It was a pretty rough game for them, pretty much on both sides of the ball, particularly on offense, I guess, but defense certainly had some struggles in there as well. We'll break it all down here in a minute. I'll just ask you to start things off here. What was your overall takeaway from the game?
After seeing some of the pregame media of Amon-Ra, whatever his name is, Ross St. Brown, the Lions, the hatred for the Lions goes even deeper now. It's just, they've been good for a year and a half, and they're making it like they've been good for like the last 35 years. It's it'll catch up to them. It's just, last year we started 3-6, ended up, making the playoffs. Right now at the bye, we're 6-3. So, I still think we go to Detroit and beat them at Ford Field. I was rooting for the Lions, last year when we were out of the playoffs against the Niners because I had a friend that's like a big Niners fan. It's always fun to throw it in his face whenever they lose. And now that I kind of put the Niners or the Bears and the Lions in the same category.
Yeah.
Especially their fan base coming at me in my DMs all day today. So I just keep on putting the media out there. It's nothing but fun.
For sure. Yeah, gotta love those division rivalries. It's definitely was a little disappointing, I would say, just the way they came out there. We talk about home field advantage all the time with the Packers. It's Lambeau Field, it's cold, you're going to have bad weather games like this. And, the Lions hadn't played outdoors all season long coming into this game. Packers, of course, have. And it was the Lions that completely took control of this game. And the Packers did not look at home at all in this one. And definitely was pretty rough to watch.
For sure. Watching the Packers, you can get that sense of like how the game is going to go by the first couple opening drives. If nothing's clicking, and then, the missed field goal, obviously the weather played a part in that. But, you have Jacobs had a 30-plus yard rush to get good field position, and then you pretty much stalemate. You don't move the ball. It's just you got good field and position, then you had dumb plays, false starts, holding, all the stuff that we always get flagged with, and it gets old. The discipline penalties get old. You have it just blows my mind how you can just, you can still have the same penalties over and over, week in and week out, and it hurts the team. It really does.
Mm-hmm. For sure, yeah. The penalties were very disappointing in this one. Lions really didn't have anything major in that department. Let's talk about Jordan Love to start. I guess there's a lot of conversation around X, did they pay him too soon? And of course, people were saying towards the end of the first half there when it looked like he was hobbling around a little bit, and then of course he threw that pick six, very ugly play, of course. And so then of course you had fans saying put in Malik Willis, and they ended up not doing it. Malik was warming up on the sidelines for in between to start the second half. I guess he was warming up, and they ended up not putting him in, which I think overall is the right call there. If Jordan was able to still play, which it looked like he was able to, certainly mobility was limited, but he didn't look nearly as bad as in the Jacksonville game. But just what are your thoughts on his performance and him moving forward, with all the talk of him, being overrated, I guess, maybe?
Well, I mean, you look at the groin injury. Yesterday was a perfect recipe for, re-aggravating that if it wasn't fully healed.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, you can't go back and change what happened in the game yesterday, but I think that the Packers would have had a whole week. 9 times out of 10, the weathermen are wrong. So you don't know what their prediction for 10-day outlook is, but they're predicting this to be a slop show for a few days. You could have installed. I'm not saying you shouldn't have played Jordan Love, but the way we were able to run on them. Look what we did with Malik Willis in a basic running offense. Those 2 games we had them, we dominated teams. You know what I'm saying? So it's like, yeah, maybe we could have had Willis and attack the side where Hutchinson was. I mean, Jacobs had almost 100 yards before halftime. Then he ended up with 95. So I mean, you can't go back on the what ifs. I guess playing Jordan over Malik always gives you maybe a better chance. But I just think with a week before the bye, I don't know. It's like I want to say I would have rested him, but at the same time, you want to see him out there to see what he has.
Mm-hmm.
So it's a toss-up. I mean, like I said, you could either had Malik out there preparing to do a pretty much just run the ball down their throats approach. You could have had Jordan Love. You can run the ball with Jacobs and do the play action, which we didn't really get much until the end of the game anyway. So I don't know. It's a toss up. I don't know what I would have done if I were in that position. I guess. What would you have done?
Yeah, I pretty much said all week that I would start Jordan if he's healthy enough to be out there. If the Packers, felt that he could play, I pretty much was saying that he probably should be out there. But like
Right.
you said, it is a little bit of a fine line, and I was, pretty close to being of the opinion, if not, actually thinking that maybe they should have put in Malik Willis to start the second half. Like at the time, I was like, the injury was clearly bothering him. When he rolled out and threw that interception, he did not look himself one bit. And then, of course, couldn't get down the field. So
Right, and like he said too that he didn't see Joseph there, and you look at the tape, and if Joseph wouldn't have been there, it would have been a clean catch by Jacobs. But I mean, you take that pick six, you take the missed field goal that we had, and a couple other mistakes, and it would have been a closer game than what we had yesterday. I mean, all in all, you held the highest scoring team to 24 points. I mean, it is what it is. Hopefully, we can come back in Detroit and just beat him at their just like last year. I mean, it'd be a tough call to see, especially to be in LaFleur's position. I mean, Love's capable of, and what you can do with Willis. What do you do? But I just think that we'll see better from Jordan Love as the season goes on, just like last year.
Yeah,
and last year we started off 3-6 and you got hot.
Yeah,
and this year we're 6-3 and we're kind of stumbling to the bye week, which thank God we had the bye week. But then we have if you think about it, the hardest game in the next 4 games is against Detroit again. So I think that we'll end up 9-4, 13 games in. So
yeah, that's not a bad place to be for the Packers. And I mean, neither is 6-3. Okay, I get that they're not playing real well right now, or at least did not last game, but there's still time. The bye week's coming. They were missing some key players. Jair was out. Evan Williams was out. Josh Myers was out, and we did see that, Elton Jenkins had a few rough snaps. Didn't allow a pressure. He's still great as ever in pass protection, but clearly not used to snapping the ball week in and week out.
Right.
So, I mean, the bye week is really coming at a perfect time for the Packers, to be able to get healthy, to figure some of these things out, hopefully clean up some of the penalties, some of the drops. To me, a lot of the drops, kind of the ball placement and just the weather in general were a huge factor to that. With, the Detroit really didn't have any drops, and Goff was, putting the ball right where it needed to be. You saw Jordan throwing it behind receivers at times, and there were a few outright drops, but I certainly am not, putting all the blame on the receivers. I'm not putting all the blame on Jordan either, or all on the weather. I mean, they certainly could have made those plays, but I think it was a combination of all three of those things, and it makes it very hard for players to make plays when there's driving rain and wind gusts, and of course we saw Christian Watson have trouble tracking the deep ball, which Jordan Love threw that up in the air. Like, the wind had to take that ball.
Absolutely. If you follow his dad on Twitter, and even Christian's brother commented,
Mm-hmm.
I mean, you get the ball up in the air there, and it could just go up and kind of kick back. It could have thrown his time. I mean, Jordan could have had, or Christian could have had the right timing, but the wind could have affected that. Could have made him look like he was ahead of the ball. But, you don't know. I just got sick of Tom Brady talking about the rainstorm. It drove me nuts. It's raining, dude. It's raining. And then for him to comment about he's the last one I want to comment about the officials. We all know what happened in New England with him. I mean, just be quiet.
Yep. Yeah, I definitely would prefer Greg Olson back there in the booth, but I guess when you pay Brady that much, it's going to be tough to keep him out for a little while. He's definitely going to be there. So I guess we'll have to get used to him.
You mean, like in Green Bay, we have, good local radio announcers. I think it's was it Bob Harlan and whatever. You'd want to mute the TV and put the radio on, but then there's such a delay that what's happening before you see it happen on TV. I'd rather have it happen the other way around. You see it happen on TV, and then you hear it on the radio.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So yeah, it was frustrating, but it's just a game. End of the day, It's funny to see all these Lions fans coming after me. It's kind of the same thing with the Eagles fans when they came after me about that dirty hit. And there's like millions of impressions on my whatever. And so I have to ask you a question too, Landry. When he got rolled up on again, did you see that player doing that?
Mm-hmm.
I'm really. And then one comment that I don't know if it was on TikTok or Twitter or whatever. He's like, "Well, that's Love's fault. He should have fell forward." Really? Come on. I think that was dirty. That's that. Like I said, that's how they're trained. That's how they practice, and well, not against each other, but against.
Yeah,
that's what they want to do to opposing teams is knock somebody out, and obviously, I think that was a dirty hit.
Yeah, I would say so for sure. He clearly was, grabbing a little longer than he had to. Whether it's hard to tell, but it certainly didn't look pretty, I guess.
Yeah, it's like I have a 15-year-old and I have a 13-year-old daughter. I got 5 kids, but my 2 oldest daughters are 15 and 13. So if I discipline or punish or catch my oldest one doing something, she immediately deflects it to her 13-year-old sister. Well, so-and-so does it too. It's like, no, I'm talking to you. I'm not talking about her. I'm talking to you. Quit deflecting the problem to somebody else. Jordan Love, yeah, next time just fall forward. Just in the heat of the moment, just fall forward, I guess, How dumb.
Yeah, that's pretty good. Well, I do want to talk about the defense a little bit here as well. I thought quietly they were actually not terrible, at least in the second half. The Lions only scored 7 in the second half, and that was on the opening drive. They certainly did not look great at all times. They were gashed in the run game a little bit, but they also, got stops when they needed to. The offense had plenty of opportunities, um, to make plays, and the defense was able to get some of those key stops. And the Packers ended up finishing with more yards rushing and passing than the Lions on offense. So, I mean, that tells you a little bit about what the defense was doing. Packers just drive killing penalties and all that, like
Right.
we already mentioned. So, I guess what were your thoughts on the defense in this one?
I guess sometimes I get too harsh on Quay Walker, but I realize his job is to chase the ball carrier down. I mean, he had 12 tackles, 5 assists. That's decent stats. Are coming off an injury, right? His first game back was yesterday from his
I
concussion.
believe so.
I mean, they always said in the combine that his good sideline to sideline speed was amazing. So he might get caught behind a couple of times, but I think he played good. I think Stokes played good. And Nixon, I don't know. I'm still not. The main reason why we paid him was for his kickoff returns. And then they go and they nix the kickoff rule. And I'm sick of getting these damn political text messages. Anyways, so you put him out there on coverage, and I mean, he has the speed, but I don't know. He just seems like he's like 3 or 4 steps too late, and by that time, it's too late. But I think we played good considering the weather and who we were playing, and we seemed to wrap up. I hate on first down. I hate giving up like the 7 or 8 yard rush yards on first down. I think that when the center tipped his head back, that should have been a false start because we got called for that same exact play this year for enticing the defense. I think the defense played well. I mean, yeah, it sucked that we lost, but it's not the result we wanted. But they're one of the top defenses in the NFL for a reason.
Yeah, I would agree with that. I don't think that the defense certainly wasn't the reason we lost in this one by any means. So the offense, really left a lot to be desired. And I guess, what are your thoughts on Jordan Love, moving forward just with what would you say to the people that think the Packers may have paid him too soon?
Love is the answer. I mean, what are you going to do? We've invested how many years in him? Look at the cycle that Green Bay goes through. You get Rodgers backing up Favre. You get Love backing up Rodgers. It's. I mean, people just get pissed or upset because we've had such success in Green Bay with developing quarterbacks. And they're just mad because they can't develop one with their own team. But I think in Green Bay, we got a good one, Jordan Love. I mean, you got to look at, the games where he's healthy and the weather isn't, a big factor. He has good stats. I mean, look how many times Aaron Rodgers would have held the ball. If you throw a 50-yard pass to the other team's 10, 15-yard line, and it's like a somewhat close game, and you had a shot at getting the ball or getting a score, and it gets intercepted, it happens. It's the game of football. It's the same thing if you were to punt the ball. So then, I mean, you don't always want to be in that situation, but if it happens once every couple of games, so what? It's the game of football. It's what happens. We take chances. I'd rather have that than, hanging on to the ball and getting a fumble on your own, 35, 30-yard line and them scoring in 2 plays. I think he's going to be good for us. People just got to give him a chance. It's his second year starting. I mean, we'll be fine. And we've seen with LaFleur's offense. I mean, I think he should still be in consideration for Coach of the Year for his play calling.
Yeah. Yeah, he was definitely highly criticized as well by some Packers fans. LaFleur was. Yeah, when it comes to Jordan Love, I mean, everyone went crazy over C.J. Stroud in year one as well. I guess they were kind of in the same boat. Jordan Love and C.J. Stroud, kind of the two next young up and coming quarterbacks. They kind of set the league on fire, I guess, with as good as they were in their first years as starters. And I mean, C.J. Stroud, perhaps he hasn't thrown as many interceptions, but he hasn't been spectacular by any means. Doesn't look like he has taken much of a step forward, in his second year. So, I mean, it's going to take time. He's still inexperienced, as far as playing on the field, like you said. So, yeah, I mean, we just got to give him time, and I think the bye week is going to help a lot, just to kind of hit that reset button a little bit and get healthy. He's not had many games at all this year where he's actually been fully healthy for the entire game. So,
right,
if we can get him healthy, that will certainly help a lot, I think.
Yeah, and he's got a little bit of Favre and a little bit of Aaron Rodgers, which I think is a good mix. I mean, you can't go wrong because what they both get us, a trophy. So I mean, yeah. The last one was 14 years ago. But the last one before Rodgers got a trophy was in '96, which is 14 years ago, or 14 years from 2010. So I mean, we're due this year for a title because the last two were 14 years apart. So
there you go.
There's a fun fact for you.
Yeah, this is the year. I mean, it definitely still could happen. I know Packers fans are, ready to hit, rebuild and everything, but the season is only half over. So,
and the thing I look at too, I said this, it's great. You go 16-1. The last time we went 15-1, we had a first round exit, or we had a bye first round, then we lost right away. I'd rather go in as the underdog, not have high expectations. Like in 2010, we were a wild card team, and we went on the road, always NFC powerhouse teams, and we knocked them in the mouth every single game. I would rather win that way than have always high expectations and just get let down with a loss. Yep. You always want to think highly of your team, but at some point you gotta, that's just how I feel. I'd rather go in as the underdog. No one gives you a chance. Then I think, even as a team mindset, I think you play better when you're the underdog. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, to me, the Packers have played a lot better when they're the underdog. I mean, I don't know what it is, but they seem to be worse at home than teams coming in. You have teams coming from Florida, playing in the cold weather, and they're still able to beat the Packers. So I think maybe it is better if they're, coming in as the underdog.
Yeah, it just sucks too because then you see the news. I mean, that Dak Prescott, he's out for a long period of time this season as well. That's a huge blow. He just gets a big contract, and I think Mike McCarthy is going to be on his way out of Dallas here pretty soon.
Yeah. If you ask me, Jerry Jones should be. He's getting a little too old for this.
Yeah, well, even his son, if his son takes over, he's been taught to operate like his dad. So
yeah, probably. I mean, yeah, like father, like son.
Right.
Let's get into our players of the game, and also, maybe some players that did not perform so well. So, give me your player that did. Just give me your players on offense, I guess. One that was good, one maybe not so good.
Well, one that I was hyped about was when first half was Josh Jacobs. In the elements, playing in the rainstorm. I thought he ran well, and they're like, yeah, he's going to be at almost 100 yards. I'm like, wow, he could maybe he could get 150, 175, by the time the game is over with. But looks like he kind of hobbled off in the second half at one point. So I don't know if he kind of tweaked his ankle or.
Yeah, it could be.
I hate to do it. I mean, he had some good connections in the second half, but I don't know. Just Jordan Love, I think, kind of disappointed me in the second half, or in the whole. I mean, in the whole game, I guess. I mean, but then again, you can't. I mean, you got the weather, so you got the receiver. Maybe he's not running the route to his full speed, and maybe Jordan Love's use of the timing might have been off because the receiver wasn't running. There's a whole bunch of things, but even Jenkins at center with the fumbles. Jordan Love not watching the ball come to his hands, and he's looking away as the ball comes to him. Defense, I like the way Quay Walker played and Aaron Mosby, how he just pushed right through on that sack. So I think they got to play him more, and I wish they played Cooper more on defense. I mean, he just won. He won Player of the Week or Rookie of the Week, whatever it was last week. Then you barely see him on the field the next week. It doesn't make sense.
Yeah.
Make it make sense, Goody. Come on, let's go.
Yeah, I'm with you on that one for sure. As far as for me, just to make it a little bit different, I am with you on the Josh Jacobs one. He looked like he had the potential to completely take over a game there in the first half, the way he was running. But honestly, I think underratedly, I think Wilson and Brooks did pretty well. Obviously, very few opportunities, but they seemed to be on the field a fair amount in the second half. And I think maybe what you said there with, Josh Jacobs potentially being injured and, just the fact that they were behind and trying to play catch up anyway, throwing the ball a lot, maybe they're trying to keep him healthy a little bit because he did, have that ankle and, missed some practice time coming into this one. So it could be possible that they were trying to protect him a little bit. And I thought Wilson and Brooks looked good. They, with very limited carries, averaged, 7 a carry. Wilson averaged 7 a carry and Brooks averaged 6.5 a carry. And so Brooks had that drop on a pass that was behind him. I put that more on Jordan Love than anything, but could have scored there if he was able to.
Is that the one that could have been a touchdown? Is that the one where?
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah, and I mean, of course, you have the rain involved as well, and he's also just a running back in general. I mean, running backs aren't exactly always known for being able to make tough catches like that.
Right.
But yeah, definitely did hit him in the hands there. But yeah, I thought they looked pretty good for backup running backs. So I really like this running back room in general. I thought the running game overall was very good for the Packers. And if they could have, kept the game a little closer, maybe we would have saw, a little bit more out of Jacobs and, the rest of these guys, in the running game. But I'll just go ahead and take Jaden Reed here as my player of the game. A little bit quiet the last couple of weeks, but finished 5 for 113. Had a humongous catch on 4th down. That was incredible. That had me jumping up and down. For sure, that was a great catch and, stuff we've seen from Jaden Reed all year long. And, he kind of just has that ability to take over a game. He seems to be kind of, the number one target now. Like he's been the consistent force that's, been able to make plays when needed.
For sure.
As far as my not so good player of the game, I certainly would agree with Jordan Love there with that selection. But, I'll pick Dontavian Wicks, and I know a lot of people have been very disappointed with him. I'm not sure. I believe he dropped 2 passes in this one. He was targeted 3 times, didn't have a catch. I believe the drop I remember seeing was the one in the end zone.
Yeah.
The ball was thrown behind him. Again, sort of a tough catch. Put a lot of heat on that throw, and of course raining. But yes, a catch he should make, and would have been a touchdown. Yes, he was wide open as well. would have been really nice to see him make that catch. And we've seen him, have quite a few drops in recent weeks, and that's been kind of the thing with him. Still getting open like normal, like you said, wide open there. So I'm really still high on Wicks, and I'm not giving up on him yet. But, this is a game, where we could have really used him, in some of those big situations and not able to capitalize. And, the blame's not all on him. We had drops basically all across the board. And again, ball placement wasn't great either. But I'm still really high on Wicks, and I really hope he can get better. But again, today was not his day. As far as defense, I like what you said there about Aaron Mosby. That was very nice. Got a few more snaps in this one and knocked over Penei Sewell en route to a sack, combined with Rashawn Gary for a sack on that particular play. But I really liked Isaiah McDuffie's day. Quietly just had a tackle for loss in this one to go with 5 total tackles in this one. So I thought it was a pretty nice game from Isaiah McDuffie, and he graded out very well on PFF as well, for what it's worth. So that's my player on defense. And I guess as far as underperformers, I never really know how to, rate players on defense. It's hard to be able to watch that in the game and without, being able to watch tape or anything like that. And of course, the stat sheet doesn't tell the whole story. You can make a lot of tackles, but, maybe they're just all down the field cleaning up for a bad play or something like that.
All right.
So it's hard to tell, but I did. Eric Wilson didn't have the greatest day tackling, from what I've heard. Missed a few tackles, so I guess I can choose him for that category. Yeah, as far as the rest of the game, pretty much just disappointing, riddled by mistakes. I think we pretty much covered it, and don't want to take too much more time. We are approaching about where I normally cap the show, so it was great having you on. Great to discuss the game. Certainly a disappointing loss, but hopefully, I'm still optimistic moving forward, and hopefully we'll see some better football ahead.
We will.
All right. Well, tell everyone where to find you here real quick.
You can find me on the old Bird app, also known as, I still call it Twitter, X, whatever, at Cheezetalk_pod. Cheese is spelled with a Z. And you can find me on YouTube at Cheezetalk Podcast, all one word.
All right. That's great. Check it out. Great to talk with you as always. And I guess we'll connect later and talk some more Packers. But yeah, always great to have you on. Appreciate you coming on here. Talk Packers makes the show a little more fun. And I guess we'll talk to you all next week. Go Pack, go.
Go Pack, go. Thanks for having me, Landry.